Hello. Let us talk about Excel and how to use it. So Microsoft Excel is a great tool to perform mathematical computations on data. If you want to find the interest rate, if you want to find the average, if you want to find uh, budget or probabilities, there's a lot of functions that we can use. So the first thing is that you want to open Excel and you can just go to a blank workbook. And if you have data that you want to import, you can go to File, Open, and then look for Browse and open your TXT file, a text document, or basically any ASCII data type. You know, ASCII data type is numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or also could be A, B, C, D, E, etc. So those things can be imported into the columns, which are vertical, and the rows, which are horizontal. So since in many cases you don't have the data, but you say eventually, for example, you want to take the data experimentally, but you want to have a setup where you have the computations done beforehand and see more or less what data you would need and for how long, then you can create your own data. So first of all, to input a title, you simply type, say, frequency, and say we want to compute the angular velocity. So angular velocity is omega equals 2 times pi times frequency. Where's my times frequency? Okay, so to insert a column, because I want to have a pi as a constant, you gonna simply say insert. And if you want to insert a row, you simply say insert. Okay, so you go to the columns or the rows. Okay, so we're gonna say pi equals, let's have another column, and then we're gonna say equal to 3.1450. Okay, now if you want your frequency and say you input it, let's organize this a little bit. You can input it from a file, as we said, or in this case, I don't have a file with frequencies. What I'm going to do is simply create my own frequencies. So I'm going to say 0, 5, 10, and you only need 3. If you want to go incrementally by 5, you only need 3 cells. These are called cells. And then by extending it, you can get all the way to whatever you want. Okay, so let's say we want to 1130. Okay, so to compute things with cells, you simply type equals 2 times, this is equals to the number 2 times pi. Okay, I'm not going to fix it yet, so I'm gonna say pi times frequency. So what's happening here? I'm saying that I'm going to use the cells before B2, which is B2, and C2 to compute this number. Okay, so when I double click on this square, it's going to compute everything using the cells. But notice that I don't have anything here, so it's going to use a 0, right? So it's going to use 0 because the first frequency is 0 and everything is 0. The reason is because this is a constant. So I need to fix the constant, and the method to fix the constant is either by writing $sign or by simply going before the column type B2 and pressing F4. Now, if I double click again, it generates the angular frequency. Okay, so basically to create a chart or a figure, you can go to Insert, and there's different types of figures that we'll use for this particular data set. So if we want the x-axis to be frequency and the y-axis to be omega or angular frequency, well, in this case is W, but this is supposed to be omega. Then you select both of them with shift and say insert figure and a graph, right? So evidently it's going to be a straight line because it's a 2 times a pi, which is constant, times frequency, which is not varying. But if you want to do square root of frequency, which is not angular velocity anymore, so I'm going to remove angular velocity. If you want to say for instance, you're going to do f squared and then square root of pi, then remove this pi, times square root of pi. Square root is a function in Excel. So you simply type a square root of something and the number, okay, or the cell, okay, perfect. So here we're gonna do equals to 2 times frequency, which is this guy, squared, okay, times the square root of pi. And pi is a constant, so I'm gonna fix it. Okay. And if you double click it, now is a parabolic, well, it's a nonlinear curve. So this is how you use Excel, the simpler stuff, which is what you need to create a graph when you vary frequency, for example. There are other way more advanced things that you can do with formulas. So we can use financial, logical, time, trigonometry. You can do sine, cosine, etc. But now that I'm here, let me show you something else. So if you wanted to find the average of something, you can simply say, let's call this here average. It's going to be equal to, if you type, notice that Excel will recommend different formulas for you to use. So average, and then the first number is going to be this number, the last number. How do you get to the last number? You simply press Control and Enter, or sorry, Control and arrow down. Do not press Control Enter, just press Control arrow down. Okay, but since I need to get all the values from the column, I'm going to do Control Shift down and close the parentheses and enter. So the average of this column is 565 units, whatever units I have, hertz, because it's frequency. Another way you can do this is equals, always put equal when you want to use a formula. So we said we're going to use average, and then you can click this column, and then it will know that whatever values you have selected or you have inputted, you want to use them. Okay, there you go. So that's another way to simply use them. So if you want the whole column, you're gonna just click on the column. But let's say you don't want the whole column, you want only a portion of it. So that's probably the best way to use what we did before, which you're gonna say average, and then simply open parentheses, click on the value you want, say to 10 on C10, and then shift control to 20. Oops, in this case I didn't need shift control, sorry. So I'm gonna start from 10 and then shift to 20 because I'm selecting all of them here. Control will take you to the end of the line. So shift, and if you want to do it again, you just click on the first cell, shift, press shift, and then the cell that you want to go to, and click there, and shift. Pressing shift will let you select all this area. Then close parentheses, enter. Okay. It will tell you, oh, something's wrong here. What would you want? I mean, Excel will even tell you, hey, are you sure you only want that data? And of course, I'm going to say, well, actually, no, I do not want that data. I want the whole column. Because that is much simpler analysis because you want to have all the data possible. So if you want to have the standard deviation, you can do equals std, standard deviation, and we're going to do standard deviation dot s, the standard curve. Sorry, we have to do equals standard deviation dot s. Double click there, and we're going to use this column as well. Close it, and that's a huge standard deviation because we're starting from 0 in incrementally, we're incrementing 5 units every time, and we're going all the way to 1100. So this is probably a not very good data set to learn statistics. But anyway, this is how you learn or how you do mathematical functions. You press equal and find the function. So if you want to do sine, you do equal sine or cosine, etc. Excellent. To save it, you can just save it as Excel file or a different year depending on the version that you have. So that's just your choice. You can save it as different formats. One of the things that you can actually make this a little nicer, or you can take it to a new window. So move chart to a new window, and we're going to call that W versus frequency. And there you go. If you want to fix these type of things, it's pretty much like Word, Microsoft Word. So you go to home for that. You go home and say we're going to do 12. Well, that's a little too small. Let's say 14, and then we're going to do 14. Okay, and then what we want to do is this is omega versus frequency. All right, and then this is going to be 14 as well. Actually, this could be a little higher. Okay, good. And now when we click on the inside the chart, we have this new option, which is chart design. And here we can change the layout if you want, but you can change also this in add titles, which we want to do labels, etc. So what we're going to do is add horizontal title, and this is going to be something that we call frequency. Take it to 14. 18 is fine. And then we go back to chart design and title. We're gonna do axis title vertical, and then this is angular frequency or omega, whatever you want. That's not truly important at this point. The important thing is learn how to add this type of information on your chart. Okay, omega, good. Now you can save it and etc.